Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking something absolutely crucial, the foundational philosophy of becoming a true craftsperson in the world of software development. We're going to be diving deep into the mindset, the daily habits, and the core practices that literally elevate someone from being just a journeyman coder to an absolute master of their craft.
Now, I want you to think about this for a second. What actually makes a great software developer? If you ask around, a lot of people will confidently tell you that it's all about mastering the latest syntax, right? Or picking up some hot new programming language, or knowing the ins and outs of a specific operating system. We have this really common and honestly totally backward misconception that programming is just this mechanical, almost robotic process. But Ward Cunningham hits the nail on the head in the foreword of our source text today. He says, you might think that programming is just typing statements in a programming language. You would be wrong. He points out that, sure, if you just glance at the programming section of a bookstore, it kind of looks like it's all about talking to a machine. But in reality, it's a job packed with intricate, moving details. Keeping track of that giant puzzle requires intense focus, continuous learning, and a much, much broader vision of what you're actually trying to pull off.
And that brings us to the goldmine of source material for today's explainer, The Pragmatic Programmer by Andrew Hunt and David Thomas. What is so refreshing about this book is that it's not some dry, theoretical textbook trying to force you into a rigid methodology. No way. It's a collection of real, concrete advice pulled directly from decades in the trenches. It's fundamentally about how to program in a way that you can actually follow, staying totally engaged, and paying attention to what you're doing, exactly while you're doing it, exactly.
Section 1. The craft of programming, more than just syntax. You see, at its core, programming is a seriously demanding craft. You're out there trying to capture these elusive, constantly shifting requirements and somehow figure out a way to express them so a machine can execute them flawlessly. You aren't just a typist. You are part listener, part advisor, part interpreter. Honestly, you're working these small miracles against the relentless ticking of the project clock. And the authors use this amazing analogy that I absolutely love. They completely reject the idea that massive software projects leave no room for individuality. Instead, they compare programming to the medieval cathedral builders. Those cathedrals took thousands of person-years and decades to build. The engineering was crucial, sure, but the stonecutters, the carpenters, the glassworkers, they were true craftspeople. They actually believed in the quarry worker's creed. We who cut mere stones must always be envisioning cathedrals. So yes, there is always room for individual craftsmanship, even within the most massive, complex engineering projects.
Section 2. The Pragmatic Mindset. Who are you? So what actually separates a simple stonecutter from a true cathedral builder? What makes a pragmatic programmer? Well, it really boils down to identity. It's an attitude, a philosophy for how you approach problems. The authors break this down into 5 key traits. First up, they are early adopters and fast adapters. They just have this instinct for integrating new tech. Second, they're inquisitive. They're basically pack rats for little facts, always asking, wait, how did you do that? Third, they are critical thinkers. They never just accept a vendor's promise or buy into the phrase because that's the way it's done without immediately smelling a challenge. Fourth, they are realistic about the true nature of a problem and exactly how long it's going to take to solve. And finally, they are jacks of all trades, keeping familiar with a broad range of technologies, so they're always ready for whatever new curveballs come their way.
Section 3. Continuous improvement, the core mantra.
Now look, these pragmatic traits, they don't just magically appear overnight. They require you to actively think about your work and absolutely never run on autopilot. You have to constantly critique what you're doing in real time, which brings us right to the 2 golden rules from our source text. Tip number 1, care about your craft. I mean, there is literally no point in developing software unless you actually care about doing it well. And tip number 2, think about your work. This means an ongoing, critical appraisal of every single decision you make every single day.
To put this all into perspective, the authors share this brilliant little story about a tourist visiting England's Eton College. The tourist goes up to the gardener and asks how he gets the lawns so incredibly perfect. And the gardener just shrugs and says, that's easy. You just brush off the dew every morning, mow them every other day, and roll them once a week. The tourist is kind of stunned and asks, is that all? And the gardener replies, absolutely. Do that for 500 years and you'll have a nice lawn too. I love that. It perfectly captures the beautiful Japanese concept of kaizen, continuously making many small improvements. Day by day, you just keep refining your skills. And hey, the good news for us, unlike those eaten lawns, as a programmer, you're going to start seeing the results of your Kaizen in a matter of days, not centuries.
Section 4. Taking responsibility. The first major test. All right, let's pivot for a second to the hard truth, taking responsibility. Being a true professional means analyzing situations for risks that are beyond your control, and when things inevitably go wrong, because, let's be real, despite all the thorough testing and perfect documentation, systems will crash and deliveries will be late, you hold yourself accountable. You just admit it honestly. You can't hide behind some childish excuse. Walking up to your boss and basically saying the cat ate my source code just isn't going to cut it. It sounds completely absurd when you say it out loud, but think about how often we hear the modern professional equivalents of exactly that.
Let's actually contrast these two mindsets. On one hand, we have excuses. It is so incredibly easy to point fingers at outside forces, right? The vendor didn't deliver on time, the programming language is totally flawed, or management rushed the timeline. But here's the thing. While any of those might actually be true and play a role, the pragmatic approach dictates that you provide solutions, not excuses. If there was even a chance a vendor wouldn't come through, you should have had a contingency plan ready to go. If a hard drive crashes and takes your source code with it because you didn't bother to back it up, well, that is 100% on you.
So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to take away from today's explainer. When you hit those inevitable roadblocks in your very next project, I want you to take a hard look at your response. Are you actively offering up solutions and contingency plans, or are you just turning to your team and telling them that the cat ate your source code? Remember, mastering this craft isn't just about learning syntax. It is about ownership. Start building your cathedral today.